Welcome, everybody, back to the Friar Talk podcast and YouTube channel. Today, it is Friar Talk Tuesday, a part of America's Finest Sports, which is a San Diego-based covering NFL, NBA, MLB, college football, fantasy football, and, of course, the Padres as well. So today, we're going to be doing a little Padres episode for everyone, and was kind of wondering, hey, what are we going to talk about heading into today? Wasn't a lot of Padres news, just kind of like talking about the lethargic offense, and that was about it. But now we have some news. We had a Tatis press conference today. I think there are a few really important takeaways from this press conference. So overall, Isaac, we could start with maybe the apology side of it first, and then we'll get into the surgery, get into him staying in San Diego, and just kind of the overall what this means for the Padres and what this means for Tatis's future. But in terms of the apology stuff, how are you feeling about Tatis's press conference today?
Of course, I was never gonna hop off the Tatis train. I was always gonna have him be on my good side and everything like that, just because I am a really big fan of his, and I understand that people make mistakes, and a lot of the argument was that he's made too many mistakes at this point, that he shouldn't be forgiven, this and that, void his contract. The whole thing of avoiding his contract, we all know what would happen. He'd go to the Dodgers, kill us for however many years it is, and he'd end up still becoming an amazing player. But I think a lot of people were just mad, a lot of instant reactions, which is perfectly fine. It's perfectly normal. Everybody does it when it comes to instant reactions. But now that everyone's cooled down and everything, it's time to realize that, whether his story is genuine or not. He came back with a story today, skin infection, started taking it in, I believe, June, tested in July, tested positive late July, appealed it, decided to stop appealing it and start serving his suspension. If that story is true, which, everyone's starting to sort of believe it, I kind of believe it also, just because of the things I've seen with Clostebol, whatever it is, being in Trofobin, whatever it is called, in the Dominican, and being in over-the-counter medications. He came out saying that the medication did not come from the Padres medical team, so he did that himself, or somebody got it for him and sent it to him, whatever it is. It is somewhat of a believable story. I'm gonna choose to believe it, just because there is no other story that's been released. So as of right now, I will believe it. But I'm happy. That's all I can really say. I'm really happy that he came out today and had his press conference, because I think it was such a, when is this going to happen? When are you going to talk to us? When are you going to talk to everybody? And he kind of did it all at once. He talked to Sadler earlier this week, I think. He talked to Preller earlier this week. He talked to the team today. He talked to the fans and the press today. I mean, he's been knocking it all out. So he's doing everything right. I'm really happy to see it. This is kind of like the first step to maturity and growing. Just being able to grow as a human being and realize that, your mistakes do not define your future. Your mistakes do not define who you are, because you can grow and you can you can still be everyone's favorite. You still can be loved. It's just a matter of being able to find yourself, and I think he's doing that. So hopefully, also he's getting the surgery. I know that's huge news. I think that is also a big step to showing the Padres, like, I'm committed to being healthy, and I'm committed to performing at my best for the entirety of this contract. I don't want to mess up again. I don't want to, keep creating the risk of injury, I guess I would say. So, I mean, I think it is, in terms of just the apology, I was always going to accept it. Whether as a fan you accept it or not, that's on you. I think you will eventually, when he hits 40 home runs again. But yeah, I was very excited to see that he spoke today, and I was satisfied with the result.
Yeah, and it was interesting because for me, I was kind of going into it, and I like, because it kept coming up. Okay, he's going to talk to AJ Preller at some point. We're going to hear him say something. But I was kind of looking at it where my thought process was, okay, like, is it really going to mean all that much? Like, what is he really going to come out and say? And you brought it up, but you brought it up as kind of like a first kind of like step towards maturity, because if you look at his past, 10 months, 9 months, whatever it is, he's consistently been in, like, maybe not the news, but outside of the steroids, but just a bunch of stuff of like, dude, what are you doing, bro? Like, just so much stuff like that. I know, I think it was Talking Friars posted something about it where it was just like all of the different things, and it was like little things too, but it was just like a bunch of dumb things. And if you read the little things, you're like, oh, that's not a big deal. But if you start adding them all up and you start adding that some of these little things turned into a much bigger issue, then it kind of was like, okay, there's some major red flags with Tatis. He basically came out today and said, and I felt like it was a pretty genuine apology. And I don't think I think a lot of people are going to be upset about it. I think that's completely fair. I mean, I get the frustration, absolutely. And I'm definitely very frustrated that he's not playing this year as well. But he just kind of took ownership. And that was the part that, and Chase isn't here right now. He might be hopping on later, but that was his big issue with it all. And he brought it up, I think, yesterday. And he was like, dude, just take ownership for what you did. Don't be like, oh, it's not my fault. Oh, I didn't mean this happened, that happened. Like, he has his explanation. That's one thing. But he also came out and blatantly said, like, multiple times, this was my mistake. This is on me. There's no one else to blame but me. He said like 3 or 4 different variations of it. So that's, I think, a good sign. However, I think the biggest kind of side of this whole thing, two reasons. Because at the end of the day, it's an apology. I honestly doesn't mean that much in my opinion. But the big parts for me are getting surgery, staying in San Diego in the offseason, and now the Padres can move on from this whole deal. Because we talked about it last night. It kind of felt like, I don't know. It kind of felt like there was some frustrations going on with like, all right, dude, what's going on with this? Like, are you like gonna like show that you've grown as a person, or are you just gonna say it? And it feels like he's showing it by listening to the Padres organization, getting the surgery. So I'm very satisfied with that, and I do think that getting the surgery was the right move. And ultimately now, Tatis we're probably not going to hear from him for the rest of the year, and that's probably a good thing. We're probably not going to hear about him until spring training, and for the team's sake, they can kind of get their mind off of it.
He's actually going to stick around the team. Yeah, so I personally think that's really good. Just being able to stick around the team and just kind of do what you can, root for them from the sideline, because you messed up. You should be around. I truly think when you mess up, you should take ownership. You should stick around and don't run away from everyone. Just acknowledge that you messed up and try and earn everyone's trust again. But if for anyone who doesn't know, I mean, I'm sure everybody knows about it, but to kind of reiterate what AJ Cassavell said, started off saying he's sorry. Obviously, he feels like he let a lot of people down. Then went on to say that he feels like he has lost a lot of love, and he knows he has a lot of love to gain back. But he also acknowledges it's going to be a long process, and that he's basically willing to get that process started. I think the first big thing about this process was getting that surgery. So, I mean, that what Cobra said is kind of my biggest fear too, that I know Bellinger had that same surgery. So it is a very big surgery. And I mean, granted, I think Tatis will be fine, but it is a scary thought just because you already paid him so much money. But he took close. He said he took close to ball without checking with the team doctors, tested positive in late July. Like I said earlier, appealed it, stopped appealing it, decided to just start his suspension now, which is really good considering, he should be, even with the surgery, he should be back to start the season next year. So it is huge for the Padres. I think it's a huge step for the organization, huge step for Fernando. I truly don't think he needs approval from the rest of the MLB. He plays for one team. So I really think he only needs approval from the organization and from his fans. I don't think he needs from anyone else. It doesn't really matter what the rest of the baseball world thinks, because honestly, he's not theirs. So as long as he's able to gain our love back, perform up to expectations, up to Fernando's expectations, up to our expectations from what we've seen in the past, it's going to prove to have just been a mistake. Just been a bump in the road for Fernando. Every human goes through them. But I hope it just does end up being that, just a mistake that, both organization wise and player wise, they got over.
So specifically for the surgery, because I agree with you there, but specifically for the surgery, I see some people talking about Cody Bellinger, and we talked about in the past that basically a lot of the reasoning behind Fernando not initially getting the surgery last offseason was that it was like, hey, I don't want to have all this time where I can't swing. Look at what happened to Cody Bellinger is kind of that example. But what do you think about that? Do you think that there's an effect there? Like, I think there could be. I think it's hard for us to tell on the outside. But I don't know. I feel like that's kind of a different case. Like, I don't think that Tatis should be hesitant to get the surgery because Cody Bellinger struggles post-surgery, which we don't even know if it's because of the surgery. Like maybe it has a little like aspect to it, but it seems that Cody's more lost to the plate and kind of lost in his head and just kind of more struggling than the surgery has impacted him and changed him. And I don't think it's really like that. I think it was more that Tatis just didn't want to lose an offseason and not swing a bat for as long as he would, which then ultimately ended up happening with the wrist anyways. But do you think that there's a like that he should be hesitant because of Cody Bellinger as an example, or do you think that's kind of like too hard to tell right now for the Padres?
I think in his sake, he shouldn't be. He already got paid. He's fine, no matter what happens with his performance. I mean, in terms of just living up to the contract, and if you are determined to kind of be that player that everyone expects you to be, then yeah, sure, you should be worried because, you know, if you really want to be, and maybe this might be out the window, I hope not, but if you do want to be in the Hall of Fame or you do want to be remembered among some of the baseball stars, some of the baseball legends, then of course that's something you're going to take into consideration. But when you factor in he already got the money and everything, like he didn't have much to worry about. Now, of course, from a fan standpoint, maybe you don't want to hear that. I mean, especially me saying that, I don't like saying that. But from a player standpoint, from a career standpoint, when you get the money, you've done your deed. You've kind of done what you can for yourself. Everything else is kind of just a gift to us fans and the organization. And of course, you want to perform up to expectations, but no trade clause, guaranteed money. I mean, he had it good. So I don't know what to say in that aspect, but in terms of Cody Bellinger and Fernando, obviously Fernando's got all the talent in the world. So did Cody Bellinger. But this is a generational talent. I never felt like Cody Bellinger was a generational talent. Fernando should be fine. I do think it's going to take time. I do think that, you know, maybe April, May, and June might be kind of tough because any type of big time surgery can be tough to come back from in that period of time. I mean, you see guys come off torn ACLs and it takes them a year it takes them, not in baseball, obviously, you know, you get guys like Ronald Acuna. It's not like football where sometimes in football, it takes a guy a year to be able to, you know, just takes a season and then the next season they're back to who they were. Unless your name is Adrian Peterson, then you break a record the very next year, or you get 9 yards away from breaking a record the very next year. But with major surgeries like this, is more often than not that you see a player struggle than you see a player succeed right away. Though not all these players are Fernando, just like not every running back or whatever it was is AP. So hopefully we get, you know, almost immediate success. But yeah, when you look at it from a player standpoint, no, it shouldn't affect his decision. But when you look at it from a performance standpoint, of course.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that now he's going to have a lot of time to rehab. He basically said he's going to get it as soon as possible, which is really good. He has probably until like, what is it, next May, most likely? Next April, May.
Mm-hmm.
So he has a lot longer than he would have had last offseason because he's already starting a month early and then he ends it like a month later. So he might even he could be ready by spring.
That's what they're saying, that April's still a very realistic timetable.
Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense then. So yeah, I think that right now, like when we look at the whole situation, him getting the surgery is a great sign. And we had talked about it before, just in terms of like, is it the best thing? We're like, look, it's kind of hard. Like, it's not really our call. We don't know how he feels. We don't know like how like a big of a disagreement it is between the team and him, where the team might be like, hey, yeah, like we're leaning towards surgery, but not a big deal. It seemed like the team really wanted him to get surgery, and he said, look, like I'm buying in. Like I've made mistakes. I'm basically gonna own up into it, and I'm gonna, you know, kind of listen to you guys from here on out. And it makes a lot of sense too. I mean, look at what they've built around in terms of the roster. Like they go and traded for his boy Juan Soto at the deadline, and then he kind of screwed up the season, where it's almost like, all right, I gotta own up to this. I gotta like, you know, move on and whatnot. So yeah, they also said, oh yeah, that's true. Rapboy says they also said he'd be ready by June about the wrist.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so that's fair. That's why I think like the goal is for him to be ready by the time he's there. Hopefully he's able to be swinging a while before he comes back from suspension too, because that would be a big thing. If he hasn't swung a bat in like 6 months or 8, I don't know how long it'll be, you know, quite a few months, that will be a hard thing because it'll take him about a month to get up to speed in terms of seeing pitches and doing all that kind of stuff. Once he's able to start swinging, then it'll be pretty clear. I mean, that was kind of with the wrist too. Like he started swinging, and then pretty quickly after, like when he started swinging fully, pretty quickly after that, he was like, all right, he's about to rehab. He's taking pitches, and it like was not that long. So hopefully, but I don't know. I don't really know if I have anything in terms of Tatis about the press conference. Anyone in the chat, is there anything that we didn't really go over about some of the stuff he said?
I mean, I already see a lot of people talking about the Hall of Fame since I brought it up.
About what?
About the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Does the Hall of Fame really matter?
Not the base, not
In baseball?
Hall of Fame.
In
The Baseball Hall of
baseball?
Fame is like known to be a joke because it contradicts itself over and over again. There's guys that aren't in it that, the fact that you have like that Barry Bonds is in it, but Big Poppy's in it, and like other guys that are known steroid users are in it, it's kind of become a joke. Like legitimately, like
No, that's actually what it is. That's basically what it's become. It doesn't really matter in baseball. Maybe in football, maybe in basketball. Yeah, of course it matters.
Even basketball is weird, bro, because it's not the NBA Hall of Fame; it's the Basketball Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
It'll be like Michael Jordan, and then a random dude from a European league. Like what?
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, that's the problem. Is there's so many inconsistencies in it. But in terms of Tatis making the Hall of Fame, it's like not really a chance now. Like in all honesty, unless the Hall of Fame completely adjusts in 15, 20 years or 25 years or whenever he's up for it. If he gets to the point where he's up to be, inducted into the Hall of Fame. But I don't think that he's really going to have a chance. But I also, like you said,
I don't. Yeah,
we've seen it. We've talked about it before. Like when
I do think it's a joke, and when I mean, luckily for him, he's going to be 24 by the start of next season. I mean, if he plays long enough, maybe the bias could take over in some sense. Maybe he could get lucky, but I mean, one time, maybe, because we don't know how far the MLB or how far whatever it can go in the future. Like, in reality, there's still a bunch of old dudes in the voting for the Hall of Fame, and obviously they're not going to be in favor of what Fernando did. I mean, they're still not in favor of what Barry Bonds did, and it might be the same voters down the road, but yeah, I think he'll be fine. Bringing championship to San Diego, that's all I care about. That is all I care about, and that's it. You're gonna be remembered. It's like you don't really need a bust or whatever in baseball to be remembered amongst some of the best. Who cares?
Yeah, and like that's why it's so weird too. Like, because also like that's the other thing with the Hall of Fame too is like the degrees of what kind of steroids people were taking and like what the differences are. Like Tatis taking in recovery too is like a little bit different, I think. Now we'll see his numbers post steroids and stuff to like be able to talk about that once it happens. But I still don't think there's a chance, which sucks. But I definitely think that, looking at it, he's probably not going to make it. But at the end of the day, what's the thing that matters? Winning, being a star player. Like there's a lot of guys that are in the Hall of Fame for reasons that a lot of people think are stupid. There's a lot of guys that were blatant cheaters that are in the Hall of Fame. In like the 20s, 30s, guys, teams were using corked bats. Full teams were using corked bats.
Yeah.
That might be a little bit of an advantage. I don't know. I'm just going to put that one out there. But all those guys made it into the Hall of Fame. So it happens a lot. So, but yeah, it's definitely something like whenever you get busted for steroids, especially in baseball, like only in baseball too. That's the other thing. In other sports, like it doesn't. Bro, DeAndre Hopkins got suspended for steroids half the season for steroids, right? Do you know what the backlash was? Damn those stupid ass trainers! What are they doing? What did they put in his medicine in the stuff he's taking? Like it wasn't like the same thing. It's really interesting, but that's kind of because of what's happened in the past in baseball, where the steroid era was such a big deal. So it does make sense in that regard, but it's just the inconsistencies of the Hall of Fame and all that stuff where it's like, does it really matter? It definitely matters to the players. It definitely matters for legacy. It definitely matters for a lot of that. But for the fans, like, I don't know. Not for me at least. But I don't know. I guess, Tatis's rookie cards took a plummet.
I could imagine.
I'm going to be sniping those. I'm going to tell you right now.
Yeah. I don't know you're going to save them until the end of his career anyway. It's not like it really matters.
Yeah, so I think that's probably all we have for Tatis. I know that, we talked about a few of the different things, the surgery, kind of what it means for him saying it. And, the big part is that the team kind of gets to move on from now on. But I want to talk about a couple other guys. The first guy I want to bring up, we're talking about the shortstop position. We're talking about Tatis, is Ha-Seong Kim. Because throughout the full season, early on in the year, it was like Ha-Seong Kim is doing a decent job, but we're waiting for Tatis. We're waiting for Tatis. Well, now the Padres are at a spot where Ha-Seong Kim is the starter for the rest of the season. Ha-Seong Kim is going to be the starter for this entire 2022 season at shortstop, while also filling a little bit of third base for Manny as well. But the dude's been a stud. The dude has not only, I think, like exceeded expectations in terms of his year last year, because it's like, okay, let's improve, let's make some improvements, but he's like a 4.5 WAR player. He's a guy that's been hitting the ball pretty well, has not hit for much power this year. We know that power numbers down the league are going down, but he's been really solid. And defensively, I mean, we all see the highlights all the time. The reason we're talking about it today is because of the play on Sunday was such a sweet play, and it brings a lot of momentum. Manny talked about Kim, that he's just kind of like, he's like a spark plug type player for this team. And we have absolutely seen that this year. So Ha-Seong Kim deserves a lot of credit. We talk about him every once in a while, but it seems like he kind of gets forgotten about just because even in terms of like Jake Cronenworth and stuff like that, he's not as good as a hitter as some of these guys, but he's playing the position where defense is most important. It is the most important defensive position, and he plays it extremely well, pretty much as good as anyone, and he has taken tremendous strides in his second season. So he's a guy that could even get a lot better in his third season as well. When Ha-Seong Kim was signed, we talked about it, and we said, look, this is a guy, expect it to be a little bit slow at first. Don't expect him to have good offensive numbers. If you look at a lot of guys that have come from either the Japanese league or the KBO in the past, it takes them to about their third year. But for Ha-Seong Kim, we're already seeing significant strides taken in his second season. So I got to give a lot of praise to Ha-Seong Kim. But how do you feel about him, Isaac?
Yeah, right now he's got a 2.6 F4 with a 103 WRC plus. A little bit over and above average hitter, but that 2.6 WAR is mostly going to accumulate from his platinum glove type defense. I mean, is it platinum or diamond? It's platinum. Yeah, it's platinum. Platinum glove type defense. Right now he's on pace for a 3+ WAR. That's everything you can ask for a guy making $7 million and filling in for a guy that's putting up a 7+ WAR. That's everything you can ask for out of Ha-Seong Kim. Made a fantastic play the other day, and I mean, there was a little stretch where he had a fantastic 2 weeks, whatever it was earlier in the season, and then he cooled off for a really long time. Now he's heating back up, and unfortunately for him, we kind of need that to occur for the rest of the season. We can't afford for him to have any sort of cool down, but as of right now, he's looking the part that's not going to happen. He's absolutely played out of his mind. At the plate, he doesn't feel like really a liability the way he did in late May and in June. He doesn't feel that way. It almost feels like, you're at minimum going to get the ball and playing. You're going to get a competitive at bat. But right now he's doing everything that the Padres could ask for out of a backup shortstop, even just a utility player is what you could call him. But a 3 WAR in your second season coming from the KBO where, they're throwing mostly maybe 91, 92, and you're coming to the league that's starting to see 96, 97 plus consistently out of almost every pitcher. And you've shown growth in your at-bats, shown growth in your swing and everything like that. And of course, your defense is always going to be your strength. Your defense was always going to be your strength. So he's absolutely been everything we all could hope for. A fan favorite, a spark, and really what looks like one of the best defensive shortstops in baseball. And I mean, I'll check right now, but I'll try and compare his WAR to the rest of the shortstops after Matt talks.
Yeah, and even last year too, like when we were looking at Kim, when he filled in for Tatis early on in the year, when the first time like Tatis kind of had that shoulder injury, dude, he was ranked like third in defensive WAR in the entire league, and he had played like 2 weeks less than everyone, and it was maybe like 6 weeks into the season, where like it was like, dude, this guy has barely played, and he's already putting up ridiculous defensive WAR. He's extremely valuable, and everyone could see that. But if we just look at his jump in his numbers from these past 2 years, I don't think you guys remember how bad Ha-Seong Kim's offense was last year. He hit 202 with a 270 on base percentage and a 622 OPS. Right now he's hitting 252 with a 330 on base percentage and a 704 OPS. And keep in mind, his home run rate this year has already been down quite a bit. He has like over 100 more at bats, and he has less home runs. Now, I think we can kind of look at it and say, okay, like maybe we can attribute that a little bit to the ball being like more dead this year. Either way, if he's going to lose power to gain 50 points to his average and almost have his OPS jump 100 points, and he's getting on base that much more, maybe that's why. That's fine too. I mean, I'm perfectly okay with that. But the big thing why I think like looking at Ha-Seong Kim's numbers are so interesting is that he's also been really good over the past month. Like he has consistently been getting better and better as the season has gone along. He absolutely kills lefties no matter what happens. And I want to talk a little bit about Tatis in the outfield and Kim at shortstop next year a little bit because I see some people bringing that up in a second here. But no matter what happens, he's a guy that has to be in the lineup against lefties because he is such an like high end fielder. And when he's going against lefties, his OPS has been ridiculous. His lefty righty splits are big time. So I don't know, man. I'm just pumped about it because I think that it's really interesting. But I see a lot of people talking about Tatis in the outfield and Kim at shortstop. So Isaac, what do you think about that happening next year? Because we've been a little bit more against it on this show, especially this season coming back. And then we talked about it a little bit this season, and we were like, hey, maybe we're coming around to a little bit. So what do you think about that potentially happen next year with Ha-Seong Kim's emergence this season?
So as of right now, Ha-Seong Kim is a top 10 shortstop, whether it be at I think he's at 9 or 10. If you just going based off F4, that's it. He's been fantastic. So like I said, he's fulfilling that spot. But in my opinion, I think it is weird to substitute a 7-WAR shortstop for a 3-WAR shortstop. That's just my opinion. Defensively, he's fantastic. But the thing about him defensively is that he doesn't just play shortstop. He plays like 3-4 different positions. 3 primarily right now. The reason I was, in favor of it is that Trent Grisham is terrible against lefties. I mean, I think he's kind of around the same against righties, but Ha-Seong Kim's significant strength at the plate has been against lefties. So what you wanted to do was you wanted to have Fernando out in center against lefties with Kim at shortstop, and against righties you wanted Fernando at short with Grisham in center field. Now, could that still be the case next year? Yeah, it could. I still would not be opposed to that because obviously Fernando has the athleticism to play multiple positions, and Kim has the defensive prowess to be able to play second, shortstop, or third. So whatever it is, I think the Padres are going to find whatever it takes to do what's best defensively for the team. I think what's best defensively for the team, of course, is you want Ha-Seong Kim on the field somewhere. That would be at the expense of Tatis, who is the best shortstop, was the best shortstop in baseball last year, and the year before. Put up back-to-back seasons where, in terms of F4, he was the top shortstop. But that is primarily because of his hitting numbers. So defensively, when you really start looking at I guess like the in-depth details of where you want these guys defensively, the argument has to go to Ha-Seong Kim. Does Fernando make these stupid, incredible plays? Yes, he does. He makes some plays that honestly no other shortstop. Maybe you can throw in O'Neal Cruz in there now just because that guy's also an athletic freak, but I have never seen any other shortstop make. Whereas Ha-Seong Kim, that guy makes some pretty damn cool plays too. Maybe not as cool, but he makes some pretty cool plays. So I think that, of course, there's an argument for both, for sure.
Yeah, and I think that most likely what we're going to see is we're going to see Kim in the lineup against lefties. The Padres should definitely have Kim in the lineup against lefties at any chance they get next year. If you look at his splits, so right now, over the full course of the season, he has an 830 OPS and hitting just a couple ticks below 300 against lefties, whereas against righties, he's hitting 231 and has a 643 OPS. So like almost 200 points difference between the two. Now, I see some people talking about he's been hitting righties a little bit better lately. I feel the same way. I feel like he has started to do that and pick up a little bit in regards to that. But he's still not posting numbers over the full course of the season that you don't really want him in your lineup against righties. However, as a depth infielder, I mean, that was what he was signed to be. He was signed to be a depth infielder for the team. And he's been a lot better than that. I mean, he's been a lot better than what they probably expected him to be. And that is something that is really, really cool to see because we've talked about it before. A lot of times, in terms of Padres development and in terms of Padres getting guys, they usually are not as good as they were before the Padres acquired them. And Ha-Seong Kim is one of the guys that has not been, he hasn't been that. And people, I remember in the offseason were complaining that he's making $7 million a year. Completely justified to make $7 million a year. And the deal looks pretty good right now as well. So I think that he's going to start against lefties. I think you're going to see Tatis in the outfield against when the lefties are there. And I do not think you will see Trent Grisham in the outfield. So maybe that doesn't mean that Tatis is necessarily in center field, but I think you'll see Grisham on the bench. In terms of against righties, I still think that Kim is probably your depth infielder. But think about that. If he's your depth infielder, you're still probably going to see him as a defensive replacement late in games. You're still going to see him give Manny off days, give Cronenworth off days, give anyone an off day if they move to DH that day, give anyone an off day or give Cronenworth an off, or not really give him an off day, but slide to second if Cronenworth is at first base. You know what I mean? So there's just there's still so much playing time if he's only technically a platoon guy against lefties and then your depth infielder. So I think that's absolutely what it's going to look like. In terms of Tatis playing center field, I see Steve Robinson says it right here. Center field would be good for him. He has a lot of speed. I think so too. I mean, if he gets a lot of offseason to work on it, he definitely could. When he played it late in 2021, he looked so uncomfortable. Like he looked lost, bro. But keep in mind, he picked up the position in the middle of the season. So we shouldn't have been expecting him to come out and be, Tatis looks like a natural center fielder or right fielder, or whatever he is. We shouldn't have seen that. But I definitely think that, you're probably going to see him a little bit in the outfield, but I don't think he's going to be a full-time outfielder. I think at the end of the day, Tatis is still going to be a shortstop, and Kim is still more than less kind of your depth infielder at the end of the day, which, dude, that's not to slight Ha-Seong Kim. It's just that the guys at those three positions, if you were saying that Tatis is a shortstop, that they're all elite. They're all all-star caliber players.
They're elite, exactly.
So that's what I'm kind of saying. And yeah, I don't think that Cronenworth is going to be moved. I don't think that Cronenworth is going to be playing first base. I think that he's definitely your second baseman. When you compare him to the other second basemen around the league, he's cheaper and he has been top five I think he's 1 or 2 in terms of WAR since he debuted in the MLB. So that is some really impressive stuff. So I definitely think that that's probably the best bet for how that is going to look. I don't know. Anything else you want to add on that?
I think one of the things that we had said was that Ha-Seong Kim, in terms of his emergence, in terms of his growth as a player, I compared him to Tommy Edman, where I thought, okay, if this is going to be a successful season for Ha-Seong Kim, it needs to be a comparable season to 2021's Tommy Edman, who, though did not hit for much power, it was very similar to Ha-Seong Kim, where neither of the guys at the time hit for much power. Both had amazing Gold Glove caliber defense. And maybe the average would be there, but the power wasn't going to be there. And as of right now, Ha-Seong Kim has a higher WRC plus by 18 points and is at the same WAR as 2021 Tommy Edman. So in that sense, he has been really, really good. And I'm very happy that he's kind of, even I doubted it. Even I did. Like, I was a Ha-Seong Kim fan. I liked him, but I just thought, like, it might take this guy another year. It might take this guy maybe even 2 more years. And that's okay. He had time. He was still only going to be making $7 million. But this year, this is his year. This was his sort of a small breakout. And I think next year is going to be one of the bigger breakouts for Ha-Seong Kim. If he's given the opportunity, granted, the way he's playing right now, he deserves an opportunity somehow, some way. You got to fit him in somewhere. But confident the Padres will be able to do so for sure.
Yeah, and the final thing I'll say on Ha-Seong Kim, just because we are talking about him, becoming the everyday shortstop and Tatis moving to the outfield. One way that Ha-Seong Kim could kind of make, like, he could establish himself into a bigger case for that, like he should be the starting shortstop, is if we go back and we look at his splits in terms of righties lefties at the beginning of the season compared to the end of the year, that second half, if he is significantly better and he takes a jump within the season as well against righties, where they're looking at him, they're going, hey, he's going to make even another jump this next year. and he was already hitting righties well at the end of the year, then maybe we see that. But it's just kind of a little bit of a wait and see with all that. But yeah, I've been extremely impressed with Ha-Seong Kim, and he was already one of my favorite players. I mean, you hear the crowd when he comes up to bat. We'll hear it tonight. Everyone gets ecstatic when he is at the plate. So hopefully he can kind of continue this. I know he hasn't had like the best hot streak in terms of like the last week, but a couple weeks before that, he was really on one. He was balling one. So hopefully, he stays hot. He continues to perform. He's been putting up great numbers throughout the season, but I've been super pumped with him. But with that said, I think we're going to get into kind of our final topic for tonight. Nick Martinez has been an absolute stud throughout this season. He has been a guy that he came in as the 5th, 6th starter. Some people were like, I don't know how much I like this guy. Mackenzie Gore's been better than him. Okay, we're going to move him to the bullpen. And then since he's been in the bullpen, he's got better and better. Is he the Padres' new closer? He closed their last game. Do you think that he is going to be the primary closer for the rest of the year?
No. They got Josh Hader for a reason, and I think they're going to give Hader more chances in a little bit. Maybe after a few more games, of course they're going to give Hader more chances. I mean, quite frankly, with his reputation, he has earned more chances. When you look at his time in San Diego, it's like, I don't know. I mean, you kind of suck. But obviously, he's done enough to be able to warrant the opportunity to be the future closer for the Padres. I mean, just like Nick, even more so than Nick Martinez, he has one of the highest strikeout rates, I think, ever. Maybe of all maybe top 5 of all closers. I mean, he's been fantastic. So with Nick Martinez, you kind of just got to keep him in that like bullpen utility roles, I guess what you could say, where this dude could come out in the 5th inning and give you 3 innings. This dude could come out in the 8th and give you a shutdown inning. Whatever it is for him, he is most likely going to succeed. I mean, out of the bullpen, he has like a 1.43 ERA, something like that. And that's just been in whatever role that they ask him to. Like I said, I think it was yesterday, he's kind of our new Nabil Crismat. And Nabil, like I said, Nabil Crismat's having himself a great year. But last year was Nabil Crismat who would come out. You need a few innings to eat. It was Nabil Crismat. You need a solid inning. It was Nabil Crismat. Somebody sucks. Who's coming in? Nabil Crismat. And that's kind of what Nick Martinez is this year. And he's doing it to an even better extent than Nabil Crismat did. All love to Nabil Crismat. That's one of my favorite players. But Nick Martinez, man, what a stud. What a signing by Preller, because even I doubted it. I doubted it for sure. I was like, what the hell? Like, what the heck, man? This guy wasn't good at one point, and I don't know if he'll be good again, but prove me wrong. He's been damn good again, and he's been perfect out of that bullpen role. Very smart by AJ to put him in the bullpen, by the way, because I believe if he reached a 20 start threshold, he would have got paid a little more. So that was kind of clutch. Sorry, Nick.
Yeah, so I like what you're saying. I don't think he's going to be the full-time closer or anything like that. But I'll tell you this. I feel the most comfortable with him closing right now.
Man.
Like, without a doubt, it's not even close.
Mm-hmm.
I see him walking out compared to Hader, and I know that Hader's been fantastic throughout his career. But, dude, he walks out, and it's like, all right, I got a lot more faith in this guy than I did Hader a couple nights ago when he completely blew that game. Dude, he's been insane. So this is a crazy stat, but in his last 15 outings, in 17 2/3 innings, he has a 0.51 ERA. Doesn't strike out a lot of guys. He's allowed a decent amount of hits. His whip's under 1 too, but like, he has just been so good when runners are on. He is like, even when he was starting, it was ridiculous, man. Like, he would come in and he would get a bunch of runners on like early on in the game, and you'd be like, oh, because I think that's why people didn't really like him at first, just because he would have really stressful starts and he wouldn't go super deep into games. But in terms of him as a bullpen guy, he's great out of the stretch. I feel like he's even better out of the stretch. It seems like a lot of time he comes in the game, first guy laces a single in the outfield, and then the next 3 guys get out. Or he'll, get a couple guys on and induce a double play. He's been fantastic when it comes to getting double play balls. He's been really good at that as well. But Nick Martinez has been really, really clutch for this Padres team. I also want to talk about a few other bullpen guys because, a lot of the reason the Padres have lost quite a few of their last games, actually 10 of their last, over the past 2 months or 2.5 months, have been because of blown games from the closer.
Okay,
But outside of the closer, look how good some of these guys have been. Robert Suarez, he's had like barely over a 1 ERA since opening day, and he did have an IR stint for a while, but he has fantastic numbers, low 2 ERA numbers. You brought up Nabil Chrismat. Tim Hill hasn't allowed a run since June. That is just something that never gets talked about, but it's because he doesn't pitch that much. We talked about this last year. He was the most overused pitcher last season. This year, we're not seeing him used as much. We're seeing him used in specific situations, and he's flourished in that role. So he's another that's been really good. Morahone has had a couple like tough outings, but overall, like he's also come out and looked ridiculous at times. So he's also been really good. And then Luis Garcia, I know a lot of people don't like Luis Garcia, but as a setup man, as a, hopefully like a 7th inning setup man, 6th inning setup man, he's putting up good numbers for that. So he's also been a guy that's been pretty solid. And he's another guy that's kind of in that closer by committee role right now, just because he does have experience. And so far he's looked pretty good out of that role as well. But the bullpen has been really good, but it's just whoever is closing for the Padres is just like, yeah, I'm just going to put up terrible numbers. I'll blow 10 games in 2.5 months. Like that's a lot of the reason the Padres are not far ahead in the wild card race right now. They would be neck and neck with the Braves if it's not for their closers blowing a bunch of games in the past couple months. So, their bullpen has been hot. It started out this year, wasn't really looking that good, but you get a lot of these guys back from injury. Morahone was coming back from injury, and he's a guy that, we like him, but also Chase likes him a lot. You see Nick Martinez bumped into that bullpen role. You see Robert Suarez come back from injury, and all of a sudden you got a full different bullpen than when you had Taylor Scott out there and Craig Stammen out there and some guys that you really weren't very comfortable throwing many innings for you. So, I see Daniel says Stammen is now the designated lineup card holder. Yeah, it seems that Stammen is
that guy needs to be gone,
responsibility as a coach.
I've been saying it since 2019, bro. Please get that guy off this team. I beg. Honestly, though, last year he was kind of good. I won't lie. But in terms of the bullpen, it's really not even at its full strength yet, I would say. You got Pomeranz hopefully coming back soon. Morahone still ramping up. You just actually added Jose. I almost said Luis Castillo. Charger fans know. You just added Jose Castillo today. Granted, it might not be for that long, but because he only took Yu Darvish's spot, but brought him up today. Yeah, brought him back today. So hopefully he looks good. Granted, I really hope he does get an opportunity to show that stuff that he had a few years ago. So it is a pretty damn good bullpen. I know right now they only rank 13th in the MLB, but considering where they were earlier in the season, like 27th, or was it 26th, 27th? I'll take 13th because that 27th was costing us a lot of games at the time, and we should have won a lot more ball games in April and May. And we were still really good. We had a really solid record, but at the same time, we could have won some more, and that would help right now. Blowing games against teams like the Diamondbacks and those games that were blown by our closers, it's coming back to bite us right now because the Brewers are beating the Dodgers. I think they're sandbagging. The Brewers are beating the Dodgers. The Braves are still playing really well. The Phillies are winning, and we could have used some of those wins, but the only way you're going to be able to use this good bullpen is if you make it to freaking October. So they need to start winning. They need to go like on a little win streak, man, for sure.
Yeah. Also, in terms of some of the guys coming back from the bullpen, because I think that's made a big difference. Like you brought up, like they're 13th in terms of bullpen in the league, which is pretty middle ground, but it's not been the same guys out there as it was early on in the year. Gil also says Pierce began his rehab in Arizona today, pitched a scoreless frame. That is big. I was going to bring him up. I did not realize he had started his rehab today. I saw that he had pitched some innings at the complex, at the Peoria complex for the Padres. Yeah. But just in terms of kind of bullpen sessions there, but him coming back and rehabbing means that not only is Pierce Johnson rehabbing, but you also have Drew Pomeranz rehabbing as well in El Paso. So those are two guys that are expected to come back in September, and they're going to be significant pieces, in terms of but the only thing is, who do you send down? I don't really know who you send down in that case.
Azokar, I can imagine, would be a candidate, but they DFA'd Nomar Mazara, so I don't know. How
you kind of have to have a backup outfielder.
Yeah, you have to have that backup outfielder.
Dude, I think Nabil might get sent down because he's been the guy that's been the least hot of late, and it's not He's not even been bad. It's not like to knock him. That's the thing. But all these guys have been really hot. You gonna sit Hader down?
Yeah, I don't know. Batten is Batten is a really good possibility, actually.
Is he still on the roster?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he is. And
No
I don't
way.
know if roster's still expanding in September, but of course that would help. Yeah.
I'm seeing. I guess Castillo would definitely be a guy that would go down too. I'm trying to see who else is in the bullpen right now. Steven Wilson would get sent down.
Oh, bro, please, dear God.
But Castillo's only up because of you.
Yeah. So that might just be like, we're getting our asses kicked,
So maybe you send down. Yeah, you probably send down Batten. Well, I don't know if you can keep that many pitchers in your rotation. Oh, dude, that's tough. I don't know. They're gonna have to send down someone. But let's see. Let's wait and see until both of those guys are actually healthy, because Pomeranz has been supposed to come back since like the beginning of the year, and it's been so slow for him to come back. And Pierce Johnson he was supposed to come back in like August. But yeah, I saw someone commented earlier that like the Padres always make their expected return dates like way too early. Dude, all of the relievers have pretty much had that happen. Even Robert Suarez, remember he was like 15-day IL, and then all of a sudden he was 60-day IL, and it was like, yo, what happened? And then he got surgery like later, and you're like, dude, he's been on IL for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So that's something to look at. Yeah. I see people say that Chris Matt has been a little bit bad lately. He hasn't really got many opportunities that much recently, as much as he was at least early on in the year. But I don't know. Like his course, like through the full course of the season, he's actually been pretty solid. Yeah. And then JDS actually says that the Padres have the 8th bullpen in the MLB right now. So that is a big jump from being almost like a bottom 5 bullpen like a month or two into the season earlier this year, which just goes to show that lately, even though that they've been losing games because of the bullpen, it's almost every time only the closer, which makes it that much worse. But yeah, I mean, I think this bullpen is going to be crucial down the stretch. When you talk about playoff baseball, obviously they're fighting for the playoff spot right now, but in terms of playoff baseball, your bullpen has to be really good. Your bullpen has to be rock solid, because yes, you're going to have your starters, but in playoffs, your starters get pulled early often. That happens because if it gets a little bit sus, and I guess we'll have to see with Bob Melvin, because we know that he is not a fan of pulling his starters early, but it's a lot more common that you'll see a guy get pulled early in a playoff game when he gets runners on. And it's like, all right, dude, we're turning over to the bullpen, and then the bullpen has to pitch, 5 innings, even though your starter wasn't bad and it's a close game. So we might have to see some of those games where it's like, all right, the Padres need 5 of these guys to go out there and be lights out. And especially in terms of 3-game playoffs, there's going to be a lot of pressure in those games. But yeah, that's kind of all I have right now. Anything else you wanted to bring up, Isaac? Anyone in the chat? Is there anything that we're looking at? And I do see that, talking about the bullpen, JQ says Pomeranz was projected like June, July. Yeah, dude, exactly. That is exactly. No, he's September now. It's early September. It's not even late August anymore. So he's just been pushed back and back and back. So that's why I'm kind of thinking, let's wait until we actually see it. Yeah.
No, I got nothing. Time to go on a win streak. Take advantage of this upcoming schedule. Of course, the Guardians are a really good team. Need to beat them today. Need to beat them tomorrow. Go on a little win streak. Hopefully we'll be able to separate ourselves.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that since Darvish is not pitching tomorrow, it's probably going to be Snell.
No,
it makes sense. It is Snell. Okay, yeah, because he would have had the off day yesterday anyway, so it would be on the same schedule. Final one to end it off. Who is a homer tonight? Soto, Bell, Machado, always an option.
Let me go ahead and look. I don't even know the pitching matchup.
It's Quantrill's tomorrow. It's the other dude. I forget who it is.
Shoot.
So Bell's hit 2 in a row.
Bell's hit 2, yeah. Bell's hit 2.
Bell's been hot. I'm not gonna lie, dude, I'm so excited. I hope Bell completely turns it on and just starts balling out. I really want to see that. More than anyone else, I want to see Josh Bell just be a complete monster.
Me too.
Let me see what the lineup is too. I haven't seen the lineup yet today. I know the game starts in like 10 minutes, but let's see.
Aaron Savali,
he's not very good.
Yeah, no, he's been 5.
That didn't matter last series.
That is true.
Okay.
Today I'm gonna go with kind of a surprise here. I'm gonna go with Jake Cronenworth.
Cronenworth?
They want to go to the Crone zone.
I hope so, man. Is the guy today a righty or lefty?
Righty.
Okay. I'm gonna go Josh Bell again. Three in a row. I'm going Josh Bell. Okay. Josh Bell's the guy. I like Daniel's guess right here. Nola 3-run shot in the 6th.
Oh my god.
That's a sleeper. If you're that confident, put $5 on it. You'll be a millionaire if that hits.
Trent
Grisham. Hosmer. Hosmer's actually, I don't know if you saw this. Hosmer's actually on IL.
I did. I saw that.
Yeah. But yeah, JDS says Nats pitching was not very good. Yeah, not the team that you should just be getting smoked by their starters. So hopefully the Padres offense gets kind of going a little bit. All of the last 2 wins, all of the runs have been from home runs the last 2 games. And that's only 4 runs. So they got to hit better with runners in scoring position. We talked about the Tatis stuff a little bit earlier, but you just kind of got to put it behind you. Got to move on. Baseball's, it's so much of a mental game where it seemed like that kind of shook them a little bit. They just got to be done with that at this point. But I think that's probably going to do it for tonight. Game starts in like 5-10 minutes. So hopefully the Padres take 1 of 2 or 2 of 2 against this really good Guardians team who has a couple big time sluggers. We called them last night the San Diego Guardians because of all the ex-Padres they have. But yeah, looking forward to the game tonight. Hopefully, I'm a big Cal Quantrill guy, so I'm excited to see him tomorrow as well. But got to get a couple wins. Got to go into Kansas City. Got to start beating these bad teams. But Padres got to get hot. It's becoming now or never time right now. So I get that the Brewers haven't been good. I get that some of these teams have been losing. The Phillies haven't been good, but you still need to win. That's the bottom line is you control your own destiny. We've talked about it. You get to 90 wins, you are going to make the playoffs. So start winning some games, start stacking some W's, and this team will be in the playoffs come October. But with that said, I think it's going to do it for tonight. We will talk to you guys tomorrow. But have a good night. Hopefully the Padres win.